This is Consent of the Governed with Eric Sully Sullivan and
Tommy P. Patterman.
That's right, and we're also joined with and by Satoshi Sean. Oh, he did it himself. Look at that. So normally everybody says, hey, why don't you introduce yourself to the crowd? I'm not going to do that. I think you guys need to go introduce yourselves to Satoshi Sean. Sorry, I've been drinking. I've been drinking all fucking day. So, Sean, why don't you do the whole everybody a favor and introduce what is the places you can go to find Satoshi Sean?
You can go to YouTube and look for Satoshi Sean. You can find me there. Twitter, Satoshi Sean. I guess you can Google me and find me and come over and we can hang out if you want to. I don't know. That's it, man. I got a crypto channel and kind of crypto and other stuff. Act like a knucklehead and talk about different crypto projects. And you had my buddy Kiss Crypto Leon earlier. Me and him do a lot of stuff together. That's about me in a nutshell. One of the biggest things though is that I am Tom and Eric's friend. So that's one of the reasons I'm here.
Big thumbs up. Big thumbs up.
Well, hell yeah, man. And that's something that, I think I shot you a little message on Facebook there or something about the other day about doing a lot of, reflecting and introspective thinking lately. And I have a feeling, and I know I can feel that it's not just me. And it's been it's kind of been a cause of all this craziness that we've been seeing. But I think people are really starting to pull their heads out of their asses and see things for what they are. But they know that they can't find it from an external source, so they're looking inward.
Yeah, I think it's probably very subconscious. Like I said, I've been doing the same thing. I think people, they see where we're at and I mean, how far we've come from where we should be and where we were. And they just question why, and I think a lot of it is subconscious. People don't just look at the world and say, I mean, it's so bad now that I guess you could, but I think at least subconsciously we do. And then we wonder why and start to think about stuff. Like I told you, I've been I've been thinking about this a lot, same as you, but in the past few days, very broadly, like as far as history and like races and governments and much broader than just like America or Texas or, California. In a much bigger sense, like I wondered, consider myself and call myself an anarchist because I don't like government. I don't believe in government because I believe that power corrupts. It just does. But the underlining reason for that is because people are kind of crappy, and that's why power corrupts because it's able to. It's just able to corrupt people because of they're kind of crappy.
I find it funny you mentioned that because I was just I was talking to Sully about this. I was just down at the Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Alabama last week, and I was down at Fort Morgan actually wandering around the fort. And I was thinking,
Alabama to all of those who don't know what that is. Get down there and figure that out.
And I was down at the fort, and that was something that kind of triggered that I don't know, not really anxiety, but just incredible self-reflection and realizing that people are completely clueless when it comes to history and the timeline of, civilization, because you look at just that particular fort and what happened there and what the world was going through in just a 200-year period blew my mind. It was like because of shitty people, because of shitty people with personal vendettas that had governance or control over, these, at that time, pretty small armies. I mean, they weren't huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was constant conflict from the 1700s. You know, they were always, you know, trying to claim that area. It was used in, you know, all of the wars. You know, the Confederates took it over for just a handful of years before they got the shit kicked out of them. Um, and then, yeah, it's just, it's the reason we're at this place is because of just that. Is shitty people, and so you can't look externally for any sort of an answer for this because it doesn't exist out there because we allowed it to get this bad, you know?
Yeah, you know, shitty people and apathetic people are
Mhm.
just a terrible combination.
Yeah.
It really, really is. And shitty people have learned to play on people's apathy. It's you can just look at like welfare. You know, welfare is it's the perfect system for shitty people. You know, you give people just enough to survive,
Mhm.
and then limit them to where if they try to better themselves, then you take it away. You know, it's like you get $1,000 a month. You need, you know, you need 1,100 to work to make it. But if you make 1,200, we take away the 1,000. So you know,
Yeah.
people don't ever want to get better because they'd have to replace the 1,000. It's literally chaining people into that class and keeping them uneducated, you know, and not able to better themselves or to better their family. It's literally like the perfect system to keep people down.
So you're
Um,
not a fan of UBI
and
or
it's all done in the name of, you know, compassion.
Yeah.
And that's what's changed so much. That it used to be for human history, you know, the tyrants ruled through fear and violence. Now they rule through compassion
Mm.
and fear, but just a different kind of fear. You know, it's not a fear of the government itself. It's a fear of, you know, other things, and you want the government to take care of you, so you
Well,
give.
it's a fear of made up socialist ideas or social agendas. You know, it's these ideas that we have of the American dream and the perfect life. There's so much pressure to live like that, and it starts back in school. And these people, they're not only are they indoctrinated into the system, but then they accept it, and then they feel the pressures of wanting to advance or just live inside of it. When you really you do to a point, but I guess it
What do
depends
you
on
mean
your
by that? What do you mean?
well, like so you're people feel the pressure to actually have a certain type of lifestyle that was artificially created.
There you go. See, that's it. It was artificial. But the American dream was changed. It used to be, dude, you have nothing. You come here with nothing. Your grandparents came here with nothing, whoever. You come here and just on your own work and your own merit, you can have your own home, your own piece of this country. That was the American dream. And
Mhm.
then it got bastardized into you can have the same car as your neighbor. Who cares about your neighbor?
Yeah.
That's not what the dream is. It's your dream. And it's been perversed into being a cookie cutter dream where everyone needs to comply to this or else you didn't make it. You know, maybe you don't care about that. You don't care about a car. You would rather live by the lake. You would rather live by the ocean. You can do whatever you want to do. That's what the dream was. It was supposed to be personal. And you're right, it was bastardized into this thing that everybody has to do. And that's not a dream. That's a job.
So, so the maxim here in this conversation is that individualism and collectivism are at odds with each other, right? So this idea of I can go out and do whatever I want to do because I'm an individual and I have the freedom to do so.
And feel
is-
successful and satisfied
well,
doing it.
well, yeah, yeah. Well, no, you're actually beaten down if you want to be an individual, which is why I always say the individual is the most underrepresented minority ever is the
Yeah.
individual, right? So, my personal opinion, you're absolutely right, Sean. We were discussing land and everything else. all of our everything we do in society is based on a commodity, right? Whether it be our time, our attention, you know, crypto, gold, whatever the case may be, investments, anything else. Where do you see like the biggest and best way for anybody to advance themselves within the current paradigm that we're, you know, rocking right now? I mean,
geez, man. First off, individualism is the biggest enemy of big government, big control, you know, because it empowers the individual. And I think around the world, it's not just the United States, everywhere, people have been made to feel less and less empowered. You know, I think, and you can get, you know, really redneck, and you can get really, you know, philosophical, and, you know, making the frogs gay, and the, you know, extra estrogen and all the, you know, this and all the sissifying all the boys. But people are just made to feel less and less adequate for themselves. They need that approval, and that's where I think it all started. Like you said, Tom, like you could do what you wanted to do and feel successful at it, and that's where I think the biggest thing changed, where you needed someone else's approval.
Yeah,
I mean, basically, little Johnny would say, "Hey, but the Smiths, they have this," and your dad would be like, "I don't give a shit what the Smiths have. The Smiths are stupid. We're not the Smiths."
Yeah.
I'll go punch Mr. Smith in the face. Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not the Smiths. And it became relevant, you know, where well, what do the Smiths have? The Smiths do that? I don't know. He's an all right guy. Maybe we need to rethink how we're doing. No.
You
ran your house. You ran your family. That's your castle, you know? And that's the thing. Those words have really, really strong meaning. That this is my castle. A man's home is his castle, because men couldn't have castles. It wasn't even a thought. Mm-hmm. It's literally like someone saying, "This is my space station." Like, yeah, that's nice. That's silly.
Yeah.
But it was the same idea to say that. It had a lot of power back in like the 1700s. You know, this is my castle. That meant that this is mine. I own this. I'm the ruler of this dominion. It's a very, very line in the sand statement.
Well, and now they've even taken that away from your physical human being as a man. They've taken away everything it is to be a man is wrong, is toxic, it's bad. So now your own body, your own, you know, I'm a man, physical body is now ridiculed for being this big. I mean, you started to see it when we were younger, where they started ridiculing the whole idea of the male figure in the family. You started seeing it in family movies and whatnot. They were goofy, they were clumsy, they didn't make all the decisions and everything else. And you saw that.
Homer Simpson.
Well, but see, he still ran his household. I haven't watched it recently. It's been years.
Marge ran that bitch.
But they've just demasculinized, you know, men so much that you don't know what to think anymore as a man, because you don't fit into society. You know.
Well, that's the thing. They've it's just like what we were talking about earlier. They still need to give you something to measure up to, something to strive for. So now that would be like being ultra politically correct, or being woke, or being ultra compassionate. But it's a lot of bullshit, man, because it's written into our DNA. You know, I mean, chicks still dig assholes. You know, it's still, there's still things that people are like, I don't understand. Why is it? Because that's just how people are, man. Mm-hmm. You know, people are drawn to charismatic leaders. You know, if it comes down to it, you know, if you're in a burning building, you know, do you want a 110-pound
soy boy
coming in there to save you, or do you want like a 220-pound burly dude with a mustache coming in? You know, and people, that's the thing. Like me saying that, I feel a little bit weird. Like, that's because it's like almost taboo now, and to use taboo for that kind of thinking.
Yeah, back
it's
in
a
the day,
legitimate thing. It's a legit. I remember when women were first being allowed to do that. That was a legitimate question. That was like, hey, man, this is about saving lives. This is about going into burning buildings and doing things that are physical.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't have political correctness here. In the military, we can't have political correctness here. This is too serious. We have to be realistic and truthful, and that can hurt people's feelings. That was just the honest. It can hurt people's feelings. Your feelings are going to get hurt here.
Yeah, but people are going to die.
Yeah, but because people are going to die. And they're like, no, little girl, you can't be what you want to be. You can't do this because you're not strong. And then they're like, well, that's not really fair. And it's not fair, but
once again,
reality.
Old school quip. Sully and I were talking about before, like patience is a virtue. Life's not fair.
Yeah.
And that's something that has definitely.
There's only two things that are fair.
Well, I think that
it's a place where you play games, or it's a place where you get fucked. That's all there is to it. So
I think this was the beginning, though, of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Was like firemen in the military, because we're like, hey, we can strive to be as fair as possible. So yes, you can be a fireman lady, but you have to pass this test, because you could say, a dude can beat a girl in a fight. What about Ronda Rousey or this person, that person? I'm like, well, that's not the norm.
Yeah.
Going by the norm, but truthfully, they can. So they put out a test. If you can pass this physical test, then you can do it, because you can do the job. All you got to do is do the job, and it doesn't matter what your sex is. But from that point on, we've tried to be more and more fair, and we've tried to bend reality to where now we say there is no genders, there is no reality. We just completely give up on reality and go with what we feel.
But the problem is, like you said before, this kind of shit is written into our DNA, and we've gotten so far away from the natural world. It's, for me, I wonder why more people haven't started going more crazy right now, because we're still natural beings, on this earth together. We're connected with the nature. We're born naturally. I mean, this is everybody wants to, like, my beef with the word organic. I think it's stupid. It's natural. This is a natural tomato. This is a natural tree. This is a natural being. And I tell you, I felt a lot of pressure, because the way that the rest of society has been going, it does not feel natural at all. And I don't like where it's going to end up if we continue on this path. Well,
I think when you're looking at it, you have to look at it in time frames of like humanity. When we look back at history, 20, 30 years is a blip, and we're, I think, in the middle of a 20, 30-year time frame. And we are insane. The human race is insane. If we weren't insane, then the phrase "history repeats itself" wouldn't exist. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And all through history, we've done the same things over and over again, and we're doing the same things over and over again here. Honestly, you can look at the Greek civilizations that have fallen apart, all emasculated the men and became more and more feminine. That's just a fact, until it collapsed. And it collapsed because usually barbarians or some other stronger entity came in and conquered it. That's a whole different thing. But as far as like, you're starting to see it where conservatives are not quiet anymore. They're getting angry. They're fighting back, whether it's All Lives Matter against Black Lives Matter. The white guilt and people calling that out and like, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't hurt anyone. I've stood up for minorities. You're not going to attack me. And I think it's going to snap the other way, just like the pendulum does all the time, to where it's going to be, white supremacy again, because it's anger feeds into anger, and if there's anger on one side against people that have nothing to do with it, that's what racism is. And saying that like a certain race can't be racist, that's it, dude. That's the end of it. The whole reason that we had change in the 60s is because we had television and everyone could see the treatment like that was in the South, and people said that's not okay. That's not okay in America. And then black people, white people, everyone stood up against it.
So if Kent State wasn't televised, would anybody care?
No, nobody would care.
Nobody would give a fuck.
Does anyone care about everything that's going on in Syria? Does anyone care about all the genocide?
Well, exactly. and this is one thing I want to bring up. Yeah, like the whole Syrian thing, where they were so quick to jump on a white man, the white man's anger out there and this and that. And then to find out he's Syrian. And well, we just happened to bomb Syria a month ago. So you think there's any motive there? I mean, it's like
that was one of my favorite memes of all times right now is that dude that was like, oh, that Joe Biden guy, he's using an awful lot of expensive bombs while that motherfucker owes me $2,000. like he's dropping a lot of bombs for a guy that owes me money. Dude, I want to say this. The whole time we've been talking about they. And for me, something that I've always done is keep digging, find the maxim, find the top spot, whoever that is. It doesn't matter what, conspiracy or any garbage there is. Who is they? In your opinion,
no, don't even go there. Let's move on.
Oh, fuck. You're just gonna bypass that? You're all done?
Hell yeah. God.
You gotta dig deep on that one though.
Yeah, that's
you're done with it. You're like fuck that. There is no they.
Yeah, no way. There's too much out there.
Okay, so the actions of the they are more important than the persona of the they.
They've been around for a long time,
right?
I mean, you and I didn't want to bring up this, man. I've actually worked hard to not bring this up twice already.
If you don't want to, that's fine.
Whenever I bring up the revolution, then Eric goes off because he will go crazy. I've already not brought it up twice when I should have, but in the idea of the United States was the biggest FU to them.
Agreed.
And then the fact that we fought, and it was such a huge fight that we won. They backed down, but I don't think they gave in. I think they said, we're not going to go about this. So 100 years, 200 years, that's actually in their thought pattern. There's no difference between us and Britain right now. There's no fucking difference whatsoever. There's a thin line, a thin line, and we're about to lose that. The horrible things that you can see on the mainstream media. As soon as Biden came in, the empowerment of these angry fucking people who literally called to start rounding people up, that were just anti whatever they were. They had talked about and now there's loyalty tests. There's loyalty tests in the military.
Dude, it's ballsy.
There's what they're doing tests for everyone that's surrounding the Capitol. For the military to have a loyalty, that's not even thought of 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And now there's executive action to take away your gun rights. That's a thought.
Dude, fucking a month and a half. I mean, we're what, in March? And we're looking at January 20th. Dude, you got the shortest month.
When he took office, I said, we're bombing Syria. Syria's got within less than 60 days. Less than 60 days.
Fuck yeah. And that, so this president is going to have 100-day, his whole legacy of his first 100 days is going to be legit doing everything we just did from 4 years ago and revamping it, superseding it, going as far as we can, and then making it seem like it's okay. And then we're going to hand this off, which is most likely what's going to happen. They're going to hand it off to somebody else via 25th Amendment.
Anyway, the Capitol was stormed. The Capitol was stormed before. The Capitol was blown up.
The Capitol was
no, but
twice.
this January 6th one, this was sedition.
Burned down.
This was sedition. These people got in there. They took selfies and shit.
Yeah.
It was heavy duty.
Yeah, but all those, do you know, I mean, the amount of work that's done in the FBI to arrest those people, to go and round those people up, mind-blowing.
So
murders and shit in Portland, nobody cares.
Tom is he's out in Boulder, right? I lived out there. I've shopped at that Ingles where that guy shot that joint up, right?
It's King Supers, you dumbass.
What's that?
The King Supers now.
Well, I don't know what the hell the damn joint is. Anyway, it's probably owned by Kroger.
It is owned by Kroger.
Fuck yeah. Wouldn't you know? Anyway, so homeboy goes and shoots all that shit up. And, you know, my honest opinion on the entire thing is it sucks, but who gives a fuck? Everything that they have done, that guy was legit on an FBI watch list. That guy couldn't fly. You know, he wasn't supposed to be flying. He was on a no fly.
And tell me how, you know, 6 days prior he bought an AR-15.
How the fuck did he get that gun? And this didn't happen for 4 years of Trump. Well, I mean, it did here and there. I mean, you look at the MGM.
You still had it. No, you still had shootings, but
yeah. But I mean, I'm gonna say that. Go on.
No, what I wanted to bring up real quick was what you're talking about, because we were talking about all this self-reflecting and all this.
I want to make because y'all were talking about this. I want to say one thing. You remember Charlie Hebdo?
Mm-hmm.
Over and they drew Muhammad and they went in there and slaughtered him.
Mm-hmm.
And people were, you know, oh, this is terrible, this is wrong, but it is their religion, blah blah blah. So in Texas, they had a Draw Muhammad contest, and a big middle finger to anyone that wanted to come and mess with it. And they did. They came and they were shot down in the parking lot.
Jesus,
because everyone has guns. So
I remember that wholeheartedly. I was sitting there going like, holy shit, if they do this,
a guy went into a church to go shoot people.
But the first thing I thought was like, hey, they're just gonna build the Alamo in the eyes of the news media. Like they're gonna build this big idea of this Alamo, and then all of a sudden everybody showed up, and then all of those people got shot down, and the media went, okay, we're done here. And it was like 24 hours later, you know, next cycle. See you later. And
same thing with the church shooting. This guy went in there to go kill everybody, and he was shot within 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Because like 3 people were armed. If people were armed, it wouldn't happen, or it would be a lot less.
That's why America kicks ass. It's why America kicks ass, is because the firearm is the great equalizer. And it doesn't matter if you're 100 pounds or you're 300 pounds, you can still fire a gun. And if you can do it proficiently, you're a badass. Cool. It doesn't, and that's the idea of the great equalizer. I mean, we went from, if you agree with it or not, we now have opposable thumbs. We can make tools, and we can use a tool to do what the tool is designed to do. And in this instance, like the last thing you want to do is take a tool away from somebody that is going to do good, while somebody else is going to utilize the same tool to do bad. Like, when the fuck did that become not logical?
Yeah. And you talk about memes. My favorite meme, right now, my favorite meme is, damn it, Sully, you made me forget. I'm not even drinking, you forget.
You're not even drinking yet?
Yeah, no, I remember. You made me forget again. Damn it. Give me a second.
Memes?
Meme?
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So background checks, and they want to do background checks and take the rights of people to own firearms away. But the meme is, I think they should do background checks before the government is allowed to have guns. If you look at the stuff they've done, there's definitely no reason they need to have any weapons at all, which is true, man. the things that
democide is the biggest killer of all humans over the course of human history. Mm-hmm. Government is the biggest killer. Even fucking mosquitoes, you know.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, because technically the Nazis were governments. You know, Stalin government, Mao government. You know, yeah.
Every single one of them. A democide is the biggest killer of all humans in the history of man.
I would venture to say even bigger than religion, because
you
know, yes, yeah.
When religion was killing mass amounts of people, there was a lot less people on the earth. So.
Well, no, but you can actually attest that at the time the government was the religion, because I mean, you can look at the Vatican, you can look at the Spanish Inquisition, all of that stuff. The government was based on religion. There was, I mean, you can legit say,
you know what, man?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's why we have separation of church and state. Do you know what the separation of church and state was instituted for?
That reason?
Was what? People say that the separation of church and state was instituted to keep the church out of government. And that's not what it was.
Nope.
It was made to keep the government out of the church.
Yeah.
Because putting government into the church gives that power.
So there's this weird dichotomy. I don't want to call it a dichotomy. I want to call it something else, but I don't have the words to say it. When your religion runs the government,
what the word is?
What?
There's a word for that when it's not really a religion, because it's a government.
Yeah. Well, it's fascism. I mean, it's
no. It's
when your religion. Yeah, I can't remember what it is. But when you flip that totally around on its, and if you think about this idea of religion owning the government and everything else, it's very black and white, right? Mm-hmm. But what the founders or the finders, whichever way you want to call them, did is very genius, because it's a gradient scale, right? It's not black and white anymore. It's, you just don't do that because you're giving them the individual right to make their decisions. And if they become a problem later, we've already thought about that because of X, Y, and Z. And that's why, when you destroy individuality, when you destroy this idea of localized government, you destroy everything that is humanity.
Morals, man. I mean, just
well, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if Muhammad's coming down, or anybody else bringing stone tablets from the Temple Mount and saying this is what we need to follow now. That shit doesn't fucking matter. What matters is who governs you. My honest opinion, the whole Moses idea, the whole evolution of societal governance through the temple was terrible. And that's one of the reasons why we have a constitution. And now we're looking to throw away the constitution to go to the next evolution of societal governance. And I am more interested in what that is. And I personally think that it's being aimed at technology, but in the wrong direction. And I think this idea of Bitcoin and smart contracts and everything else is working on a trustless system to build the next evolution of societal governance without this overlying cap that was, hey, oh, you look like you're brimming at the top. This guy's foaming.
A theocracy. Theocracy. That's when a religion, part of the religion doctrine is has to do with political structure and ruling people.
And herein lies the problem. If and this is just from what I see, and maybe it's just because I grew up Catholic and having to deal, but I also see that there has to be some level of, it doesn't necessarily have to be religion, but it has to be something that, really drives, some sort of moral set on society. Because I mean, there are,
dude.
I know it's
That
societal.
That used to be the family. That used to be where you got it from. That used to be where it all was. So, like you said, back in the late 70s and 70s and 80s, breaking that down was the first part of it. Because it's written in our DNA. We need to build those things from somewhere. We need to compare things to someone. And if you can break that down, then you look elsewhere for your morals. You look elsewhere for what your compass is going to be, to what your minimums are. And then when society or they, dictate that, then that's where we get engineering to where we're heading in certain directions.
And you are absolutely correct, because if you look at even our own ability to record what happens within our own society, even in the short span of 200 years, we used to record everything in a family Bible, right? And it didn't matter if it was a Bible of the Quran or whatever. None of that mattered. But in America, you could do whatever you wanted as long as there was one book, and that was of your family, and you wrote down all the births and everything else, right? Now all of a sudden you have the birth certificates. It's all got to be like, all of those records have to be approved by an overarching freaking beast, which is the federal or even your state government, right? So I think we're looking at something that's going to be a pendulum swing back to the other way.
Would you say that government is looked at as religion, or definitely?
Yes. Absolutely. The government at this point,
in the past,
at this point right now, the government is absolutely a religion.
I would say it has taken the place of where religion was. Where you had the church ladies all hanging out. Everybody got their information from.
Yeah.
Well, think about nuns.
Schools were churches. Orphanages were churches. There's so many things. Recently, like there was orphanages and things weren't really run by state. There wasn't a CPS. There was. All of those things were run by religious organizations. Food banks, basically.
Everything was run out of the church.
I mean, the point earlier of like welfare was from the church.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why the church was funded, because people would go to food banks and things like that at the church.
So are you okay, Sean, with different styles of food banks being run from something other, like secular, like without religion? Are you okay with that? I mean, I was a financial
advisor. Our office ran one of the biggest food banks in the city. From our office, people would come in, and we funded it ourselves, or we got donations, but usually all the agents, we all just put in a little bit, and we easily stocked one of the biggest food banks in the city.
So that's
1,000 people there, plus 40 or 30,000 town where I live in, and we never didn't have enough.
So that's exemplary. That's exemplifying this idea of localization matters, right? To me,
but this also goes back to what we were talking about the welfare kind of state and keeping people on and leading them along. That when it was typically created in local communities by the church, by religion, that were helping out these people that were going through rough times. It's not like it was an embarrassment to be receiving that help, but you didn't really want to be receiving that help. You had something inside your brain going, I want to work hard and be a productive member of this local society. And that's something I was talking with Sully about before. Like, where does that come from? And they've taken that spark away by introducing the welfare system.
That's not a thing anymore.
No, they don't want to work.
No, they don't want to be a productive member of society. They don't care. It's not important anymore.
Well, but because they've took away the meaning of the true original definition of a local society, where you are a part of your local community. You're helping out. You're working.
Well, no, but I learned this a while ago. Is you weren't held accountable. Like back in the day, you were held accountable for your actions. Now you're not. Like your actions and your accountability were one of the most important things ever in that society. Was like, this idea of I can't compete with the Joneses, all stemmed from this idea of I can't provide for my family. I can't be held accountable.
Everything we're talking about is like now circling back into the original stuff we started talking about.
Absolutely. And
the fact that we don't have that I don't want to say masculinity, because it's the same for women, but that drive to compete, that drive to be productive, not to just exist, or not to just make it for myself, but that drive to be better, to better everything, to make things better for my family, not just to provide, not just to have Netflix and
Well, so there's one thing to compete with your neighbor. There's another thing to be held accountable to your neighbor, right? So
no. I think that's wrong. I think that's where they got you. I think people used to be accountable to themselves, and that's what mattered.
So think about a clan. Think about a clan back in the day in Ireland or Scotland. If I couldn't count on you to get my back when we were going against England, then fuck you. You can have your own farm and do your own shit, and that's individuality, right? You get to decide. You can do your own shit. But when it comes down to it, if you're not involved in this and the big fight against the bigger beast that is the overarching, fucking.
But we've definitely been hamstringed of our drive, of our masculinity, of that of testosterone, of us wanting to kick ass.
That also agree.
That leads into the accountability, because if you're accountable to the Joneses to keep up with them, then that's all you'll do.
No, not to keep up with them.
Yeah, but
to be accountable to them, to be. I'm not saying on par or like try and be with them. I'm saying like, yo, bro, if you don't do this when the time comes, I'm cutting you the fuck off.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm talking about like where we started talking about right before that. If we've become. You can't really say the Joneses. The Joneses are what society is now,
right?
Because it's not so personal. It's not literally small town. What are the Joneses doing now? It's what there's like and also because of social media, the Joneses are it's much broader.
Oh,
so
now it's the
level,
Johnsons.
but
it's the Johnsons.
You know what you can do. You know what your abilities are.
Right.
So that's why becoming accountable to yourself is so important. Because if the Joneses or society has this, and you meet that level, then you're like, I've met the level. I'm good. I'm successful.
No.
When know, dude, I did that easy. I gave up like 70%.
Dude, that's the thing. That's one thing I've been feeling.
If you're not accountable for yourself, you're not going to give it the other 30%. You're not going to excel from the pack.
But you need to find the motivation to find that extra 30%, though. Like, what's the motivation?
Yeah, it used to be because you're accountable to yourself. You're gonna I'm gonna give my 100%. I'm gonna
do the best I can. So when I was on a fight team, doing Muay Thai and actually like trying to get MMA status and really fight, the idea is that all of us are together, but we're all individuals because we all have our individual strengths. And it was.
Oh, you mean like a country made up of 58 individual states?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it is legitimately like the reason why I have the views I have is because we all have our own strengths. Like, Texas may do oil well, but fucking Kansas does corn like a motherfucker, and if we can figure out how to work together as a team, we can just knock that shit out. But as an individual, it's one of the reasons why Tom had to send me this link to this to an email address called fractaldynamics.com, is because I believe everything is a fractal of everything. Like, the one thing that every single one of us should do is act locally as much as possible. Do everything you can do. And that means your own house, right? So, everything starts from your house and spirals out. You should know every one of your neighbors' names. You should know.
Nobody does. What you're saying now.
That's fucked up.
What you're saying right now, honestly, I can tell you a third of my friends think you're talking like a crazy man.
And why is that so crazy?
Yeah. It's not. To me, it's crazy that they think it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, my kids, they think our neighbors hate us. I'm like, why?
Dude.
Plus we're in a military town.
Who are you gonna? And there's one question. Who are you going to count on when all of a sudden everything goes to shit? Who are you going to count on?
Can you imagine saying, I've said this? I remember it was like probably 10 years ago. Now it was more than that. But I was like, hey man, will you go borrow like a cup of sugar from the neighbor? And my kids went, what?
Dude. Yeah. So
that was like my neighbor, man. You'd be like, hey, if you didn't know him, you're like, oh, I live, over there. I just need a cup of sugar. You mind? I'll, come by anytime. That was like normal.
Dude, not to bust out the neighbor, but the neighbor's in Kuwait right now. He's National Guard. I'm not going to say his division. He's in Kuwait right now, and his wife. I watch their dogs all the time, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, his credit card was shut down because he was using it in Kuwait. And then all of a sudden their water got shut off. And I see, the wife at the door, and we're filling up jugs, for water for her. And this is a thing. Like, she's not embarrassed about it. She gets it. She's sitting there going like, oh my God, I'm a little embarrassed. And oh my God. Oh, and we're sitting there going like, no, I get it. That's a huge, you just had your husband go.
Yeah. Can you imagine the stress that she would be under if she didn't think she had you as an option?
Yeah.
And
right. Exactly.
That's how people live nowadays. People live that way.
Dude.
And living with that constant stress, man, is just heavy duty where you don't feel like,
it's almost makes you think like antidepressants, things like that would be on the rise.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I actually have a coffee mug that says it's a coffee mug, and he sent it to us from Kuwait, and it says somebody in Kuwait loves you, and it's got a picture of a camel on it, and I drink coffee out of it every once in a while. Like, so there's and this is just a guy in the National Guard, and I'm sitting there going like, dude, you're in the National Guard. You shouldn't even be in Kuwait. According to the Constitution, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
But I don't go about it. I just leave that.
You don't?
Go.
That's surprising because you do that shit with me. You don't let me you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, dude. It's reality.
No, reality.
Dude,
there's what you believe in and what there's reality.
Dude, you
like, no, it's not gonna happen, and it'll happen to you.
You bust me out all the time, Sean.
Because you yell at me, man. I'm like, hey man, they're gonna shoot you. No. Just tell them no. That's against God. That's like, dude, you can't
tell them no.
You're still gonna go to jail.
No, you can totally punch a cop in the junk and not get shot in the face.
Hey, as you're listening,
you have no right to do that, officer.
Yeah.
As you're listening to this guy talk about this,
I pulled the cop over and told him he ran a red light.
Yeah.
When I called the cops, they wouldn't give a ticket.
And I gave him
punched them all in the face.
A civilian citation, and he paid it.
He told me to give me $20, and then he gave it to me, and then they arrested me. Okay,
that's the best so far, and he paid it. Dude, that's the best one I've heard. I asked you before, are those airsofts above you?
Dude, did you not remember our conversation?
No, I want to get it on record.
Oh. No, I am not 7 years old. Those are not airsoft guns.
Okay.
They're not loaded, though. This was loaded.
That looked like a little Taurus tip up there.
That is a Taurus with
yep.
Trim. Yeah,
I always like those little guys.
Yeah, I like it. It's cool.
Is that a 25 or a 22?
It's 22. And then I was talking to this YouTube personality who has a lot of subscribers, and he was sorry, man. It's just
you're chuckling.
No, dude. Whenever people talk to me from like the UK, like Mad Crypto, Crypto has like 10 hammers because that's what they use as weapons. He's like, man, there's some shady looking characters, so I went and got a hammer. I got another hammer. and then this one dude, Crypto Dobo, he's like a cop in London. He's a super cop. He's like famous. And but he like post pictures, and he was like, we had this huge bust, and we got these dangerous weapons, and there was literally like 3 kitchen knives and a hammer on the table, right? And the cops were standing in front of it. Like, in America, they stand in front of like 20 AK.
Really? They're standing in front of kitchen knives and a
table. The table was like 3 kitchen knives and a hammer.
We busted these guys.
Like policemen around the table, like, aha. So it's like funny, right? But here, so my YouTube personality. So he made a lot of money in crypto, and he had a partner that screwed him over. And this partner starts telling people in España, where he lives, that he's got like 20 million, in this, and that he got 20 million, but he has like 100 million or something. But he's talking all this, and it's starting to get around to bad people. So he's like, man, I was getting worried about it. These people were coming by, and we had some weird calls, and I'm actually worried, about the mob coming over and like messing with his family because he lives out in the country. And then he tells me, I got this new gun, and it's an air gun, but it shoots really fast. I know what he's talking about because it's like a $600 gun, but it shoots like pellets, but you can get like gas pellets and stuff. He starts talking about it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, it's really cool. It's like, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I was thinking about getting it for my cousin's husband because he's a felon, can't own a gun, but he can own that. But yeah, I just have a Uzi. So like, you got to get one of these. I was like, no, I got an Uzi, man. I'm fine. I'm completely good. So he's like, do you have a fucking Uzi? I was like, yeah.
I don't have an Uzi. I've got an automatic Uzi BB gun. But,
yeah. I know what you have. I've seen in your gun safe.
Yeah.
So
but Uzi, I can never justify buying, even though I love the design. I think they're a great. I mean, the Israeli Uzi is a wonderful design, but for $1,000 for what you're getting out of a
Israeli Uzi owned by a German company now, which I thought was, kind of funny.
Well,
but it's cool. It's very cool.
They're very cool.
Yeah.
The stamp lowers are like they might as well be, as far as an Uzi is concerned, the stamp lowers might as well be, kind of a shitty AK, depending on where you.
No. I mean, if you look at the predecessor to the Uzi, I can't remember. It was a grease looking gun.
Yeah, grease gun.
But it's very similar to the. I mean, that's what the Uzi got the design off of. It's the Kalashnikov was the predecessor to the AK-47 was or the STG-44, which is a predecessor to the AK-47, was much more. It was much more solid desigine, but the Israeli Uzi is still. I mean,
no, I'm
somewhat
indestructible. I'm only talking about the stamped metal. Right?
Yeah, on the lower, yeah.
So this idea of the lower being stamped metal. So if you look at the lower on right in the background,
yeah, MP5.
Well, the AR-15 and the MP5. Look at the thickness.
Is that a true HK MP5 up there?
Yeah.
Oh, nice, man.
So I didn't want to leave you alone on this because I mean this is America and.
Is that a Glock?
I also have a firearm, a lot of them, and so
nice.
I just wanted to make it well aware to those or them that may be watching. Come get it.
I don't know. I don't own any guns. I have one. I've just got that semi-automatic Uzi BB gun, and it doesn't work. It doesn't even work. It's
You're a bitch. You're a bitch.
The cops came around looking. Actually, it was the bureau, the BATF came around looking for my dad one time up in northern Wisconsin because they heard some automatic fire in the area, and they knew he was a gunsmith. And they came up to my they came up to my grandma's house, which is right before ours in the driveway, and they asked him, is Pat Patterman here, and does he own any weapons? My grandma looked at him and said, "He's got one gun, and it doesn't work."
So this is something I've thought about for a really long time. I mean, and then all of a sudden now, as we're talking about this, Boulder incident and everything else, where I'm at, like where am I at in my soul? Like, where's my line in the sand? Where am I at? And I'm looking at Sean. His line is in the sand, and he's in Texas. Me, North Carolina, I'm at a different place. You, Colorado, you're in a different place. And I will tell you this, you know where my line in the sand is? And I'm not fucking around.
I've been, in retrospect and in thinking, I have created a line in the sand myself in the past week, and I'm bummed about it. But what's your line in the sand? Because I bet we're similar,
dude. And that's what I was thinking about. Is like, how far has your line in the sand moved in this? The last month. It seems like a year.
My line in the sand. I honestly feel this way. If they do anything to take away the Second Amendment, I'm going to die because I'm not going to do it. I'm sad. No. That's not like there's no anger, and I'm like a realization that like I can't let it happen. Like putting down a dog that you love. It's that way. I'm sad because I know I'm going to die.
So Tom knows where I'm at with my wife, and we're actually trying to have a baby. This is the first time we're actually trying to have a baby.
You and Tom?
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, me and Tom are trying.
He's gonna have great hair.
It's gonna be an anal baby. No.
Butt
the
stuff.
Wife, we're gonna do some butt stuff. No, so the wife and I are trying to have a baby, and I'm sitting there going, like, there is legitimately a chance that she's pregnant while I'm in a firefight with my local sheriff. I mean, that's a rough idea to actually fucking comprehend, right?
You brought up something very important, and I got to go conspiracy on you. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, you're gonna bring up sheriffs? If you're bringing up sheriffs, I'm in.
Because
fuck yes,
sheriffs are
the president of the county.
They're the most important person in law enforcement. The most important person in your county. They're the most important person in your life when it comes to the government. Fuck your mayor, whatever.
Fuck your mayor. Yep. Fuck your mayor.
All the police in your town are garbage men. They're garbage men. They work for the city. They're city employees, just like the garbage men.
Yep.
Sheriff's
an elected official, man.
Yeah, sheriff and all those deputies.
I'm gonna drink bourbon, and I'm gonna drink bourbon while this guy educates you.
That is your army. That is what's protecting your county.
That's your army.
If the military comes in, if that order comes down to disarm or to take away guns from Americans, the sheriffs will be your last line of defense. And that is what has angered and stopped them many, many times. Because
your sheriff
have come out and say, I'm not going to enforce this law. I'm not going to enforce this law. We're not going to enforce this law. And then they're like, hey, you're the government. No, I'm this county sheriff. And I'm not going to enforce this law. It's unconstitutional. And that's it.
That's it.
That's all you have is your sheriff. And in like New Jersey, when I hear about like sheriffs going and enforcing those red flag laws and shit like that's like.
Well, look at out here when they tried pushing it with Weld County. The guy was on national news. He said, "Fuck, I will not enforce this law."
And that's like
this is dangerous.
That's the biggest thing, dude. And if the media would just push that a little bit more, to where people could see,
it will not.
They could see a law enforcement head saying this is unconstitutional.
I'll be
I'm not
back
gonna
one
do that.
second.
So that's the line in the sand. I
Yeah.
mean, that's legitimately the line in the sand.
Well, that's your defense. If that
it's-
defense falls,
Dude,
if they knock on my door, then that's my line in the sand.
well, it's the only one we have.